All right, let's continue our 12-step journey. So the step we're going to talk about now in the middle of the prospect phase is step 6, price conditioning and eliminating alternatives. Remember, hit that subscribe button so you can see all the videos and be able to find them and watch them in order. And don't hesitate to give me a like or a comment. I always like to hear what you think of the videos, if they're helping and that kind of thing. Or any suggestions of how they could be better and help you more. So when we're talking about price conditioning and eliminating the alternatives, there's a couple of things we want to cover and focus on regardless of the product. I want to talk about these. Return on investment. So return on investment, you should have discovered when you did the survey, are they the first type of customer you see? Someone who's going to be moving in the next couple of years, who's very concerned about getting a return on their investment when they sell the home. So that person, I definitely structure my product towards them. We're not going to build some super dream. We're going to help them structure this so that it's something that might be a little less money, a little more affordable, not so many custom features, but it'll still look absolutely gorgeous when they go to sell the home and give them a great return and help them sell the house fast. Or are they the second type of customer? Someone who has no intention of leaving, going to be in this house until the good Lord takes them away. That person could care less about return on investment. And then the third customer, and the one I see most often, is someone who's going to be here for several more years, maybe 8, 10, 12 years. But the house is definitely going to be sold at some point, and how much money and how fast we sell it is something that's very important to us. So I can use those conversations as I move into the demo. But with price conditioning, what we want to do is we want to find a way to introduce a price to someone, a number, a figure for a project similar to theirs, so they start having a number in their mind as we go into the product demo. You need to have this number put in their mind before you do product demo. Otherwise, the number they come up with in most cases will not be high enough, will not be the number you're looking for. But if you can introduce that number now, get it in front of their eyes, even if they go, oh my gosh, oh, so much more than I thought it would be. That's okay, because once they get into the product demo, they start going, oh, that's really nice. Oh, I see why that would be a little extra. That is really good product right there. Yeah, it definitely makes sense to me now. And so they literally will bring their standards, their expectations up to that number. So that's the purpose of price conditioning. Now let's talk about how we do it. In cost versus value, in the slides that you have in your Engage presentation about cost versus value, it is going to draw attention. If it's windows, it's going to tell you what the average project for 10 replacement vinyl, double pane, double hung windows with insulated glass is in your market. And it's going to give you a figure. If you're in bathrooms, it's going to talk about what a mid-range bath and a bougie bath and an upscale bath remodel would be. And if you're talking about kitchens, the same thing. A minor kitchen remodel, a major kitchen remodel, and a mid-range kitchen remodel. So all of these figures are available in what is called cost versus value. And that comes from Qualified Remodeler. That's the same magazine that ranked us now number 8 in the Renovo family. The new Qualified Remodeler just came out. We've moved from 39th to number 8 in the country because we're reporting as Renovo Home Partners. And it lists in the listing all the companies that make up Renovo Home Partners. Very, very powerful to be number 8 in the country. And it's reported $680 million in business. Oh my God, what's the difference between a company that's $680 million in business compared to a company that's $2.5 million in business? Everything. As far as services and what they can offer. That same magazine that ranks us number 8 in the country each year also puts out what are called cost versus value information. They talk to thousands of contractors and find out what the cost of doing various projects are in that area. And then they talk to hundreds of real estate agents and they find out how much value it would add to the home. So whether the person's going to sell or not, we talked just a little bit about return on investment in order to get the number of the project in front of them. Because in Qualified Remodeler, it's going to give you a percentage of the return as soon as the project is done. 60%, 70%, 80% of the money you spent went straight to the value of the home. And then it's going to give you a dollar amount of what that project would have been. This is what we're after to get in front of them. But we don't want to sit there and go, hey, you folks, let me point out that your project that you're considering doing in your area, the typical cost is this. Because it'll come across very self-serving and you'll create, in some cases, confrontation. So we use the idea of talking about how much return on investment they're going to get when they do a project similar to this. And we go to cost versus value. We refer to cost versus value as the Kelley Blue Book of remodeling. Because what does the Kelley Blue Book tell us? It tells us what a car should cost based on its miles and its year and everything else. So cost versus value is the Kelley Blue Book of remodeling. It tells you what a project should cost in your area. So we use the idea of sharing with them what the percentage is for return on investment in order to get the dollar number in front of their eyes for this typical project. Now, if the person's never going to move, this will be the last time I bring up return on investment. It's simply the stepping stone to let me get this number in front of them. But if they are going to move, if resale value is important, I've also now set myself up for the return on investment close that I can do when we get into the close, where I use this percentage to actually close them on the project. So I'm always going to bring up return on investment and the percentage in price conditioning in this step 6. And if they're never going to leave their home, I'm doing it just to get the number in front of them. If they are eventually going to sell their home, I get the number in front of them, and then I can use the return on investment close once I get into the close. And you'll see that close on other videos that are specifically about closes that we'll get to. So to give you an idea of this Kelley Blue Book, a conversation that I'll often use with a homeowner to help them understand what cost versus value in the Kelley Blue Book of remodeling, what I mean by that. So I go, John and Mary, I want you to imagine you have a older teenage young lady. She's getting ready to leave. She's graduated high school. She's getting ready to go to college for the first time. College she's going to go to is 300-400 miles away in another state. And you need to buy her a late model car, something really reliable and safe for her to get back and forth to college and come home on holidays and that kind of thing. So you decide what kind of car you want to get. You go in the Kelley Blue Book. And Kelley Blue Book tells you that that car this year and this many miles, the fair market value is $20,000. So with that information, you then go out and you go looking for a car and you find that year and the mileage and you find that car, and the person that's selling that car wants $30,000. Would you pay $30,000 to that person? Of course not. Kelley Blue Book told you the fair market value was 20. Maybe if it's in really good shape or really well taken care of, you might give them 22, even 23. But you're not going to give them 30. That person's trying to price gouge you. So you go a little bit further down the road and you find what appears to be the same car, same year, same mileage, and that person only wants 10 grand for that car. Are you going to trust that car to put your teenage daughter going to college for the first time 200 or 300 miles away from home, traveling out of state? Are you going to trust her in that car? Of course not, because there's probably something wrong with it. If the fair market value is 20 grand, maybe somebody would sell it for 17 or 18 to make a fast sale, but they're not going to sell it for 10. There's something wrong with it. So, you know, there's something shady. They're being slick in some fashion. That's what the Kelley Blue Book of remodeling tells you as a homeowner. It tells you whether somebody's overpriced and price gouging you or whether they're taking shortcuts or there's some problem or shadiness going on that you should be concerned about. And they tell you what the fair market value is. And as long as you're somewhere in that range, depending on maybe some special features or special services the company provides for you, you know exactly what you're at. So that's what we're going to do with price conditioning. So we're going to use that to introduce the number. And if you're in bathrooms, there's an additional exercise you can do where you actually build the cost of the bathroom for them. If you're in windows, you can actually talk about the stepping up of windows, the difference between double pane and triple pane and regrind vinyl or metal frame and a composite and the material costs. And you can actually almost take them shopping, if you would, and talk about those. In kitchens, you can talk about particle board and press board versus real wood or a solid Duracast board that's being used. Any number of things you can talk about to show the difference between shortcuts and stuff you wouldn't want versus doing it correctly. And those are product specific. So you'll see those specific exercises in the videos related to specific products. But in general, price conditioning, we're using that cost versus value that's put out by Qualified Remodeler, the same magazine that ranks us. We refer to it as the homeowner, as the Kelley Blue Book of remodeling, so they understand what it is. We're going to talk about return on investment to all homeowners, whether they're selling or not, and we use the percentage, how much would be returned to their value of their home as soon as the project they're considering would be done, in order to get the number in front of them so that they understand what this project should be in their geographical area. And then if they are at some point going to sell, we've also now teed up the ability to use the return on investment close as we get into the close. So that's price conditioning. The next thing that we're going to do in this step is we're going to eliminate alternatives, kind of like taking them shopping. So whether it's bathrooms and you're eliminating tile and acrylic and fiberglass and natural stone as things they wouldn't want, whether it's in kitchens and refacing where you're eliminating painting and staining and particle board and then custom cabinets that would be way outside of the pocketbook range, and you're eliminating those things as things they don't want, or whether it's windows and you eliminate reground vinyl and wood and aluminum storm and metal frame windows, and you eliminate those as options they want. What we're going to do is we're going to eliminate alternatives. And again, in the product-specific demos, you'll hear the actual verbiage of how to do those exercises based on what product you're demoing. But we're actively going to eliminate the alternatives in this step. And then another thing that we do that it's not listed as one of the names of the step, but you want to be sure you address it at this point, is you're going to eliminate do it yourself people. But only if it's relevant. See, at the end of these videos, and after you watch this video catalog and you start riding along with other reps, you're going to develop what I call conversational bullets. I want you to think about, you got that old Western gun belt on with all those loops with the bullets in it, and you got a 6-gun right here on your hip. And so, as you watch these videos and you go out with other reps, you're going to gain conversational bullets that you can put in this gun belt like this and save up. And what you don't want to do, the reason a lot of reps sell coming right out of training and then fall off the cliff a month or two later, is it's not what they're leaving out. It's the fact that they've built up these conversational bullets and they like all these neat things that they can say. And so they're walking in the home, not with a 6-gun, but with a Tommy gun, and they're mowing them down with every bullet they've got, just shooting them down. And the message is hard to understand, and there's too much there, and it's complicated and confusing, and nobody's going to buy when they're complicated and confused. And what you're really trying to say is lost in the noise because you're saying so much. What you have to do is you take that 6-gun and you pull it out and you load it for each particular person you're at, and boom, you sharpshoot them when you shoot them. So with do-it-yourselfers, at some point in your presentation during this step, number 6, you should look at the homeowner. In baths and kitchens, there's a specific spot. In windows, there is too. It's a little more subtle, but your manager will show where it is. And you simply look at the homeowner and go, you got some options here. You could always do this project yourself. And you shut up and let them think about it and give you an answer. Don't answer for them. Let them answer. You're having a conversation. And you know what 80% of our customers are going to tell you? They're going to go, that's why you're here. Because our customers are not do-it-yourselfers. And if the person tells you, nope, I'm not a do-it-yourselfer, I'd never do that, that's why you're here, that's why we called you, you don't need to go any further into the conversation about do-it-yourselfers. If you do, you're just shooting bullets you don't need to shoot, and you're having a confusing and information overloaded conversation that's not relevant to this person. But if they look at you, if they're the 20% that goes, well, I've done projects like this before and I considered it, or yeah, I think I could do this if I had a little more time, or we were talking about that, then you need to deal with the do-it-yourselfer. And I have found this is the most effective way I have ever heard somebody deal with the do-it-yourselfer. And that is, we're going to talk about the hours to install the project. For instance, in showers, I'm going to go with John and Mary, talk about doing it yourself. Now we're going to send a 2 to 3 person crew out to do your shower installation. Listen, I'm always assuming it's going to happen. I'm saying, we're going to send 2 to 3 people out to do your shower installation. Always assuming it's going to happen. That's how all my verbiage is when I'm in the house. And they're going to be here for a day and a half, 2 days. If it's custom, it's a 1 to 2 day project. So it's approximately 50 man hours for that crew to get your shower done. Now that crew does this work every day, has exactly the right tools, and a set of helping hands if they need them. If that crew has the exact right tools, does it every day, and has a set of helping hands, and it takes them 50 man hours, how long would it take you? And you wait, and you don't answer the question, and you let them think. Some people are actually going to sit there and go, well, how long would it take me? I have to do this and that and the other thing. They might take a couple minutes. You wait. And you'll be amazed how many people will come back and go, I don't know, it might take me a couple hundred hours. But if they can't get an answer, I've never had somebody disagree with me when I look at them and go, would you agree it would take at least twice as long? Yeah, it sure would. So 100 man hours. That's 2 weeks of 6 days a week, 8 hours a day. Are you going to take 2 weeks of vacation off to put your shower in? Because remember, as soon as you start in the shower, the only thing you have now is a toilet and a sink. Don't say a half bath. So it sounds like a lot less if you say all they've got left is a toilet and a sink. If you were just painting the bathroom, and you've only got half done one weekend, you can still use the bathroom to the next weekend when you finish. But as soon as you start on that shower, all you got is a toilet and a sink till you're done. So you're going to take your 2 weeks of vacation off to do it? Kids probably wouldn't be happy if you did that. Didn't get to go to the beach this week or this summer. So if you're going to do it on an occasional weekend and a night or two a week, how long is it going to take you to do 100 man hours? 2 weeks of 6 days a week, 8 hours a day. Months. And remember, nothing but a toilet and sink while this is going on. So that really brings it home. In refacing, it's a 2 to 3 man crew. There are 3 or 4 days. It takes them 100 man hours. They got their exact right tools. They do it every day. They got a set of helping hands. Same conditions. If it takes them 100 man hours, how long would it take you? And the person gives you a number, or you say, would it take you, if it takes them 100, would it take you at least twice as long? Yep. That's 200 man hours. That's a full 4 weeks of 6 days a week, 8 hours a day. And you can remind them that they've lost the whole kitchen while they're doing it. It's down. They're cooking out or cooking on the back porch or in the basement or in the garage or something like that. Windows, depending on how size of the window job or the door job, you can call it 50 man hours or 100 man hours. It's the same exercise in the same conditions. But it really brings home to them the fact that not only is it going to take them a long time, but then they don't have a warranty. Nobody to call if there's a problem. They got to go back from scratch, and they have to foot the bill if there's anything done wrong or goes wrong or gets broken during the install, because there's not a company that's responsible for it. If they're putting in their own shower and they break the $1,500 beautiful glass shower door they got, it's on them. They're buying it twice. So you can point these things out depending on the product. I want to point out 2 techniques that I used there as I was explaining. These are 2 voice techniques that are very, very effective that you need to learn to use. And this is why we master a presentation, because if we have the presentation mastered and we're not thinking about the next thing we have to do or the next thing we have to say, then we can start focusing on learning techniques and practicing techniques. These 2 voice techniques I gave you was, 1, the technique of repeating a point to bring it home to people. Let me show you where I used it. I want you to hear me repeat it and how I do it conversationally, but how it brings the point home. Now, this 2 to 3 person crew has all the right tools. They do this work every day, And they've got a set of helping hands if they need them. Now, if they've got a set of helping hands, do it every day, and have all the right tools, and it takes them approximately 50 man-hours, how long would it take you? I repeated the conditions twice to really help them think through the process. You might want to go back and listen to that again. The second technique I did is learn to talk in sound bites. And what I mean by talking in sound bites is it forces you, if you think consciously, I need to talk in sound bites, it's going to purposely force you to do three things. First of all, if you're thinking about the things you're going to say is not one word or one long paragraph, but little points of information, you'll naturally pause between them, like I am now. And that helps your audience understand what you're trying to get across. This is not a matter of how much you know about your product or your company, anything. The most important thing is how much information you can get across to the person and that they actually understand. And if you think about talking in sound bites like I'm doing right now with you, those natural pauses give somebody a chance to catch up, grab onto what you're saying, and then they're eagerly waiting for the next thing to come out. It will also help you not use too many words. Because when you start thinking about sound bites, you'll use the same wording over and over. We as salespeople think we have such a gift of gab. I need to really explain this point 8 different ways. And the problem is, the more you explain, the less they understand. Too much information causes confusion. I want you to always be asking yourself, how can I make the same point with as few words as possible? How can I make the same point with as few words as possible? Because when you do that, the message becomes stronger, not weaker. So, when you ask a question, wait for the answer. Don't assume it and go on. Don't answer it for them and go on. You ask the question, let them percolate, let them work it out. If they're a little bit slower or they're thinking more than you thought was there to think about, so be it. Well, that's the ownership and the involvement that you're looking for. Shut up and let them answer. Put pauses in so people can hear your message. They can process it. And then they're waiting to hear the next thing you're going to say. You're not just blowing them away with a fire hose. And learn to use as few words as possible to make your message. It is so much more effective. And what are we always going to use? Questions, questions, questions. How can I ask it as a question instead of saying it as a statement? John and Mary, do you know what it means about return on investment? Rather than saying you need to be concerned about return on investment. It's the same thing, only as a question. They go, yeah, it's how much you get back when you invest in your home. Exactly. Do a project on your home. How much of that money you spend goes straight to the value of the home. If I ask a question and they get it right, I say the exact same thing as if they got it wrong. I just say you're exactly right. And then I say what I would say if they got it wrong. That's a good point, John, but return on investment is more like, and I'll tell them what it is. Because it's all about getting the message across. So if they get it right, I reward them, and then I still say it. So we're simpatico. We're talking the same language. And if they get it wrong, I politely correct them by just saying, well, that's one aspect of it. It also means, I didn't say but, I said it also means, and I give them the same definition. I'm always saying the same thing, whether they get the question right or not. So, that's our step 6. Now we've price conditioned, we've eliminated alternatives, we talked about do-it-yourselfers if needed, and we're ready to move on.